In the frigid halls of the Winter Palace, Tsar Nicholas II sits alone by the flickering light of a candle. A servant enters, presenting a sealed envelope with trembling hands. It's from Grigory Rasputin, the peasant mystic and healer from the rural wildlands of Siberia. Nicholas breaks the seal, his eyes scanning the scrawled words that seem to bleed with foreboding.
Tsar of the land of Russia, if I am slain by nobles, your own kinsmen, then none of your family will remain alive for more than 2 years. The Romanov dynasty will crumble, overthrown in chaos, and rivers of Russian blood will flow.
A chill grips the Tsar's heart as the prophecy sinks in. Little does he know the gears of fate are already turning. Welcome to the twisted tale of Rasputin, the peasant who defied death, ensnared an empire, and foretold its doom. Stick around as we find out if the prophecy came true, and we uncover the fringe facts of the Mad Monk. Grigory Rasputin was born January 21, 1869, in a village called Provorskia, in the frozen wilds of Siberia. This is a harsh land where religious exiles were sent, and prison colonies dotted the surrounding areas. Rasputin was born to a peasant farmer, Yefim Rasputin, who was a respected courier and senior church elder, instilling in young Grigory a deep, if unconventional, sense of faith. Rasputin's birth was nothing short of miraculous. Their first 7 children did not survive beyond childbirth or infancy. Something willed this child to survive. And from a young age, Rasputin began to manifest some extraordinary gifts. He spoke of vivid dreams foretelling the future, in which angels visited him in these visions. He knew things about his neighbors that there should be no way for him to learn, scaring the villagers who thought he had demonic powers and making others believe that he was the second coming of Christ. Whether healing sick horses with a touch, predicting strangers' arrivals, young Rasputin's tales blurred the line between a peasant boy and a prophet, setting the stage for the mystic who would one day captivate an empire. Rasputin went on many pilgrimages in his youth, where he would travel to nearby monasteries. At just 17 years old, Rasputin traveled to the town of Abalak, where he met a simple peasant girl named Praskovia Dubrovina. After a courtship spanning several months, they married in February 1887 and had 4 kids. But don't picture a fairy tale romance. Rasputin was already notorious in his village for being a heavy drinker and a shameless womanizer. From all accounts, this was not a happy marriage. But despite all of Rasputin's downfalls, his wife never left him. And yet beneath this rowdy exterior lurked a man on the brink of a transformation. In his late 20s, around 1897, Rasputin claimed to have a profound vision of the Virgin Mary, igniting a renewed zeal for religion. This prophetic dream propelled him to leave on yet another pilgrimage. This time, something was different. He began wandering holy sites and delving into the mystical and Gnostic undercurrents of Christianity, learning secret knowledge, esoteric rituals, and having a direct communion with the divine. It was at the Verkuteri Monastery where Rasputin met his pivotal mentor, Macquarie, a reclusive elder living in a rugged hut, practicing ancient pagan-like traditions. Macquarie profoundly humbled Rasputin, shifting him towards a life of mysticism and wandering. Under his guidance, Rasputin learned to read and write, embracing radical changes, no longer bathing, abstaining from alcohol, fervently praying, whipping himself into an ecstatic frenzy, and being a vegetarian.
Oh, God, I think I'm gonna be sick.
It's okay, Joe. We can get cheeseburger later. This mentorship marked a turning point, but Rasputin's journey didn't stop there. He continued to wander and built a zealous following. It was rumored that his female followers were ceremonially washing Rasputin before their meetings, sang strange songs, and that he had joined the Klisti, a religious sect that practiced self-flagellation and sexual orgies. By 1903, his wanderings led him to St. Petersburg, where he met the influential church leader, Archimandrite Theophan, the inspector of the religious academy. Theophan was so impressed by Rasputin's raw charisma and apparent holiness that he invited him to stay at his home. Theophan became one of Rasputin's key allies, opening doors to the city's elite salons, where aristocracy gathered for religious discussions. Far from his wandering days on the outskirts of Siberia, he was rubbing shoulders among aristocrats and Russia's elites. The nobility soon took notice of this disheveled monk, and were intrigued by his reputed spiritual powers. Rasputin soon attracted an early circle of followers, including members of the royal family. The black priestesses Militsa and Anastasia of Montenegro, who were obsessed with the occult, played a crucial role in Rasputin's ascent. Okay, I need to backtrack on something here first. Before Rasputin, the Romanovs had another spiritual advisor, Monsieur Philippe, a French mystic who aided Tsarina Alexandra, who before only could have daughters. She had 4 daughters, and he was credited with helping her conceive their long-awaited son, Alexei. But the aristocracy despised Philippe for being a foreigner and forced him out. On his departure in 1905, Philippe prophesied that God would send the royal family a holy man, a friend from the East, which is often interpreted as Siberia. This is where Rasputin enters. Months later, at the Peterhof Palace, Rasputin first met Tsar Nicholas II and Empress Alexandra. The Tsar later noted this encounter in his diary.
We have made the acquaintance of a man of God, Grigory, from Tobolsk province.
Rasputin then returned to St. Petersburg the next year and served as the Tsar's spiritual advisor. Rasputin's real grip on power began with the Romanovs' desperation. Their son Alexei suffered from hemophilia, a deadly blood disorder that caused agonizing bleeding episodes. The doctors were helpless, and the condition was kept secret to protect the dynasty. Rasputin's influence exploded in 1912. During an infamous incident while hunting in Poland, Alexei suffered a severe hemorrhage after a fall. Bleeding profusely, racked with pain and hovering near death, his mother, Tsar Alexandra, prepared a death announcement, and the palace was in panic. In desperation, she telegrammed Rasputin in Siberia, begging for his prayers. Rasputin replied swiftly,
God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve. The little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much.
Miraculously, Alexei's bleeding stopped and he recovered. Doctors called it inexplicable, a medical mystery. This is what cemented Rasputin's hold on the royal family. From that day on, Rasputin became Alexandra's most trusted advisor, wielding immense influence over the family. He visited the palace often, telling bedtime stories to the royal children and offering healing through prayer and hypnosis-like techniques. But whispers of scandal followed. One palace maid even accused Rasputin of rape. But Alexandra, fiercely loyal, dismissed the claim as lies and fired the maid. Newspapers in St. Petersburg fueled the fire, alleging Rasputin was allowed into the princesses' bedrooms, igniting outrage among the nobles who despised this dirty peasant infiltrating the court. The aristocracy's hatred began to boil. They saw Rasputin as a demonic force, a filthy, unwashed mystic with hypnotic eyes, manipulating the weak-willed Tsar and German-born Tsarina. Rumors swirled of him, prescribing opium, cocaine, and other drugs to Nicholas for his ailments. Nobles plotted against him, viewing his rise as a threat to their power and the monarchy's stability. Danger escalated in 1914, when a fanatical woman, Giona Guseva, stabbed Rasputin in the stomach outside of his home, screaming, "I have killed the Antichrist." Guseva was later taken into custody and declared mentally insane. Rasputin spent the next several months recovering from his wounds. While it was common knowledge that he was unpopular among the nobility, he suddenly became aware of the fear and animosity simmering with the Russian people. While the Romanovs remained isolated in their palace, oblivious to the full extent of Rasputin's behavior, Rasputin reveled in debauchery on the outskirts of St. Petersburg. His old habits resurfaced, and he began drinking in villages and seducing women in nearby brothels. Gossip spread like wildfire, painting him as a devilish influence. One infamous tale captures his wild excess. In 1915, at a luxurious hotel in Moscow, a drunken Rasputin leaped onto a table, exposed himself to shocked patrons, and shouted, "This is the altar that the Tsarina worships," a crude boast of his supposed affair with Alexandra. The incident, reported widely, horrified the elite and fueled demands for his removal. Infuriated, Russia's higher-ups ordered the secret police, the Okhrana, to shadow him. Their reports detailed orgies, bribery, and corruption, amplifying rumors of a romantic affair with the Tsarina, stoking spy accusations due to her German heritage. That same year, Russia plunged into the Great War, declaring war on Austria-Hungary and Germany. While Rasputin was recovering, he penned a prophetic letter to the Tsar.
A terrible storm cloud lies over Russia. Disaster, grief, murky darkness, and no light. A whole ocean of tears, and so much blood. We will all drown in blood. The disaster is great. The misery is infinite.
He warned that the war would doom the Romanov monarchy and Russia's institutions, but Nicholas ignored him. As Russia suffered devastating losses, aristocrats began to blame Rasputin, accusing him of treason and sabotage. His influence over appointments and perceived pro-German stance made him public enemy number one. By 1916, with the war raging and revolution brewing, a cabal of nobles decided Rasputin must die. On the night of December 30th, 1916, Prince Felix Yusupov, the wealthiest man in Russia and married to the Tsar's niece, lured Rasputin to his opulent palace in St. Petersburg. Felix had promised a meeting with his beautiful wife, Irina, but this was a trap. In the basement, decorated like a cozy dining room, Felix offered Rasputin cakes and Madeira-laced wine with enough potassium cyanide to kill an elephant. But Rasputin ate and drank, and nothing happened. Panicking as the poison was having no effect, Yusupov fetched a revolver and shot Rasputin in the chest at close range. Rasputin collapsed, seemingly dead. The plotters celebrated upstairs. But when Felix went downstairs to dispose of the body, Rasputin growled like a beast and lunged at him. After a scuffle, Rasputin staggered up the stairs and fled into the snowy courtyard. Felix fired 2 shots, both missing. Then he ran close and shot twice more, hitting him in the back and finally the head. Rasputin fell face down in the snow, but continued to crawl away. The conspirators then beat him with clubs, bound him in a carpet, and threw him into a nearby frozen river. Finally, the demon that ruled the Romanov family was dead. The murder shocked Russia. Peasants mourned their holy man while nobles celebrated. But Rasputin's prophecy about his death proved true. Within months, a revolution topped the Romanovs, leading to their execution in 1918. The dramatic tale of Rasputin's assassination, who was lured with poisoned cakes and wine by Prince Felix, survived the poison, shot multiple times, beaten, and finally drowned in an icy river, has become legendary. But this story is highly embellished. Autopsy reports showed there was no poison in his system, and he reportedly avoided eating sweets, making the cake poisoning improbable. He died from a single gunshot wound to the head. The rising like a monster after being shot comes from Felix's sensationalized memoir. He was dead long before being thrown into the river. Maybe the fact that he survived his 1914 stabbing fueled this exaggeration, but his death in 1916 was a straightforward murder by aristocrats, frustrated with his influence. Just like his death, many other facets of his life have been exaggerated, or just straight up lied about for ulterior motives. Some of the known falsehoods are that he originally left his village in order to avoid getting arrested for stealing a horse, that he was part of the Klisti and had an affair with the Tsarina. There's no evidence for these things. The relationship between the Tsarina and Rasputin was purely platonic, and that of a trusted advisor and friend. The story of Rasputin pulling out his manhood and shouting that the Tsarina worships it is also a falsehood. Secret police made up this lie. Actual records showed that he went to a hotel, had a couple glasses of wine, and left. These stories were made up by the police chief who hated Rasputin, and in letters found later, he told his staff to make up stories about Rasputin. The chief even created a conspiracy that Rasputin was making millions selling the used underwear of servicemen.
He was on OnlyFans?
No? Stories portray Rasputin as a puppet master who controlled the Tsar and his government, appointing corrupt officials and pushing Russia into World War I. While Rasputin had real influence as an advisor, recommending ministers and offering unsolicited advice on war strategy, he wasn't the secret ruler. His enemies blamed him for the monarchy's failures, as he had no formal power. He actually opposed Russia's entry into World War I, contrary to myths that he orchestrated it. Okay, so who was Rasputin actually? Rasputin was a mystic whose charm and cunning manipulation got him into the royal family. He was a simple man with many flaws, and a peasant from Siberia who wanted to warn his Tsar. Despite his effort, he could not stop the fate of the Romanovs nor the destiny of Russia. This is the story of Rasputin. Hey guys, I'm Josh from Fringe Facts. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe. And if you're interested in alternate history or animated history, click one of the playlists here.